Welcome back, everyone. Today, we'll start by introducing some terminology that's relevant to web applications. We'll also talk about web frameworks and what makes them full stack. Then we'll install Flask and use it to build our first web application. We've already talked about HTTP. That's the message protocol that supports the web. We've seen that HTTP specifies the format of messages exchanged between a client, such as a web browser, and a web server. So the server is a program that listens for HTTP requests on a specified address and responds to them. We'll be creating servers today. So here we have a good example of event-driven programming. Now, the HTTP request includes a request method. Sometimes we call that a verb. And the get method is used to retrieve a resource. The post method is used to create new resources or update existing ones. The HTTP protocol relies on a lower level protocol called TCP/IP to send and receive sequences of bytes. Now, computers connected to a network all have an IP address such as 23.202.231.169. We usually connect to servers using the domain name system, the DNS. The DNS maps IP addresses to domain names. So instead of writing 23.202.231.169, we're able to write sjsu.edu and get to that same address. The special name localhost refers to the local computer and corresponds to the special IP address 127.0.0.1. This is the IP address of localhost on any machine. Now we can have multiple web applications running at the same address. Each application must use a different port. In our examples, we'll use port 5000. To connect to a server running at a specific port, we add a colon followed by the port number to the IP address or host name. For example, we'll use localhost 5000 to connect to our web server that will be running on our machines. When we don't specify a port, the default port 80 is used. Today, we'll use a web framework to set up our server and create our web application. So what exactly is a web framework? A web framework is a collection of modules that allow us to write web applications without having to handle low-level details such as protocols, sockets, or process and thread management. When we use a web framework, we write code that conforms to some kind of conventions and concentrate on the logic of our web app. A web application may use a combination of a base HTTP application server, a database, a template engine, and more. A framework that provides all these components is called a full-stack framework. Django, for example, is a full-stack framework. It comes with batteries included. It provides everything you need to build a web app. Some frameworks only provide the base application server. They give us more flexibility as to what other components to run on top of that, which database to use, which template engine to use, and so on. We'll use Flask today. Flask is not a full-stack framework. The Web Server Gateway Interface is a Python standard. It specifies a standard interface between web servers and Python web applications or frameworks. It specifies how a web server is supposed to communicate with web applications, how web applications can be chained together to process a request. This interface is documented in PEP 3333. The goal is to promote web application portability across a variety of web servers. So because of this standard, what we learn in implementing a web application in Flask will be useful if we wanted to use a different framework.